Hello, Brook family and everyone else watching this video. I'm Josh Phillips. I'm one of the pastoral interns over here at the Brook Church. And right now we are in the middle of the first week of our 21 days of prayer and fasting as a church. This first week we've set aside to fast from all social media and entertainment so that we can grow in our relationship with Jesus as a church, and so that we can refocus our hearts on his mission. And for some of us, this has been a very rich and rewarding experience so far as you draw closer to Jesus. For others, it has been very difficult and hard, I'm sure. And for a lot of us, I'm sure it's just a kind of a little bit of a mixture of both. But either way, what I want to tell you here is that I know we know from the Word of God that God is going to meet you during these 21 days of fasting. In fact, God is more eager for you to grow spiritually and to enjoy him through this time than you are. And so with that in mind, I want to share with you some reflections from the scriptures from our devotional plan for today. That we see that in Psalms 119, verses 25 through 32. It says, "My soul clings to the dust. Give me life according to your word. When I told of my ways, you answered me. Teach me your statutes. Make me understand the ways of your precepts, and I will meditate on your wondrous works. My soul melts away for sorrow. Strengthen me according to your word. Put false ways far from me and graciously teach me your law. I have chosen the ways of faithfulness. I set your rules before me. I cling to your testimonies, O God. Let me not be put to shame. I will run in the ways of your commandments when you enlarge my heart." Here, what we see from the psalmist is that the psalmist is going through an incredibly difficult time of suffering. He says in verse 25 that my soul clings to the dust. He is on the edge of death. And in verse 28, it says that my soul melts away with sorrow. This is a man who is going through deep hardship. And in response, he says, "Give me life according to your word. When I told you of my ways, you answered me." The psalmist took his experiences of his suffering and brought them to the Lord. And it says that the Lord answered him. And the Lord particularly answered him with his word. And that is exactly what the psalmist needed. The psalmist says here, "When I told you of my ways, you answered me. Teach me your statutes. Make me understand the ways of your precepts." Precepts are commands of God or the laws that God gives. "And I will meditate on your wondrous works. Strengthen me according to your word." Through real, tangible suffering, the psalmist knows that the words of God are the things that will bring him life and relief. You see, the word of God reveals God's character. The law of God is a reflection of who God is. And God is a good and loving and gracious God. And so when we look at his law and what it says to us, it reveals to us a God who can meet our needs and a God who we need. Additionally, his commandments clear a path for us so we know the purpose of where we should be going and how we should be living our lives, even in the midst of brain-numbing suffering. And in order to know this God through the word, the psalmist says that he is committed to meditating on God's wondrous works. He's going to put away falsehood so that God can graciously teach him his law. He's going to cling to the testimonies of the Lord. And he knows that he can't do this on his own. You see in verse 32, it says, "I will run in the ways of your commandments." The psalmist wants to run after God and his ways because he knows it's the right way to go. But in order to do that, he needs his weak and restricted heart to be enlarged. And in verse 32, he says, I will run in the ways of your commandments when you enlarge my heart. The great thing is about God is he knows that we are imperfect. And he will enlarge our hearts so that we can grow in our knowledge of God and pursue him harder and with more joy. And that's going to be one of the things that we focus on during this time. This fast is a call for God to enlarge our hearts so that we can run hard after his ways. I want to leave you with 3 prayer points for the remainder of this week and for this fast that the scriptures teach us will reap a great reward in our hearts. The first one is that we want to pray during this time that God will reveal more of his character, wonders, and love to you so that you can meditate and dwell on his ways. Secondly, we want you to pray that God would widen your heart so that you can receive more of his love and walk more wholeheartedly in his ways. Lastly, pray that God would align your ways with his ways so that you will be excited, empowered, and intentional to tell others about the wondrous ways of God. This is going to be a great time as we as a church set aside more of our day and our time for God, and we expect God to do wonderful things for our church here in 2021, just as he did in 2020. It wasn't easy. There is difficulty, just as fasting sometimes can be difficult, but the reward is worth it. Lastly, in the email that will be sent out to the Brook Church, we ask that you guys share testimonies and prayer requests and praises that we can all be joining with you this week, and reply back in that email so that we can be praying with you and praising God with you for what he's doing during this time. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.